Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Thursday. Today's Thursday, August the 2nd. I almost said Tuesday, you caught me. Hey, here's the track of Tropical Depression 5, and this is coming from our brand new hurricane tracking maps, our Java track tracking maps linked on the main page of HurricaneTrack.com. Nice new background, as you can see. And we finally added the error cone, and there's a little box you'll see on the map. It's up in the right hand corner. This is just a cropped version of the map, and you can turn the error cone on and off. Anyway, this is the 5-day forecast from the National Hurricane Center for TD5 based on the 11 a.m. Eastern Time advisory, and you can see a fairly straightforward track into the Caribbean Sea with a general west-northwest movement, placing it right over the Northwest Caribbean Sea on day 5, passing to the south of Jamaica according to this track forecast, and putting it fairly close to the Cayman Islands here. So interests down the road in this part of the Caribbean Sea need to be watching this closely. The next 24 hours, however, the impact will be to the Windward Islands, the Leeward Islands, to the north of Barbados most likely, and also clearing the ABC Islands in here, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao. No issues there, at least from direct impacts, because the storm, what's forecast to be a storm, will pass to the north of the ABC Islands. I want to go over the tropical cyclone discussion, the forecast discussion from the 11 a.m. advisory, read it to you, and then explain it using graphics. This is from 11 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. And here's what we have. It says, after looking very disorganized overnight, satellite imagery this morning shows a marginally better structure with evidence of increased convective banding. NOAA buoy 41040 to the north of the center reported 31 knot winds. The intensity is kept at 30 knots, pending the arrival of an Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft in the cyclone, scheduled for 1800 UTC. That's about 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Dynamical guidance suggests that the vertical shear should decrease somewhat in the next day or two, and this could allow for some strengthening. However, the 12 UTC, which is about 8 a.m. Eastern Time, sounding, which is a balloon that they launch, from Trinidad showed a low to mid-level easterly jet to the south of the latitude of the depression, and this could be an inhibiting factor for intensification. So in other words, this sort of jet stream, if you will, this easterly jet pushing on the tropical system could tilt it vertically and not allow it to grow in the vertical, and that might basically shear it, is what this is saying. So the official intensity forecast is similar to the previous one. The motion continues westward at a fairly swift 17 knots. A mid-tropospheric high over the western Atlantic should maintain a well-defined easterly steering current over the Caribbean for the next several days, and I'm going to show you this in the computer model in just a minute. This pattern is likely to keep the cyclone on a mainly westward track for the next 72 hours or so. Later in the forecast period, as the system nears a weakness in the ridge, I'll show you that too, a gradual turn to the west-northwest is expected. The official track forecast is nudged slightly to the south of the previous one, but is otherwise unchanged. This is also very close to the dynamical model consensus. They have a really nice consensus model that they run based on these major sophisticated dynamical models, the more robust models, and they're saying that their track is not wavering much at all from that model consensus. And then of course you can see the different wind speeds here. They're holding it at 70 miles per hour at the end, becoming just actually staying a depression as it goes through the islands, maybe reaching tropical storm strength just as it passes through. So let's take a look at what all of this means. You can see there is now a little bit more banded structure to it, and that's what the forecaster was talking about. You can also see the well-defined circulation. It's definitely trying to organize, but there is a low to mid-level easterly jet punching through, trying to push it faster than it's moving. Just like if someone's pushing on top of you while you're walking, you might fall down. And in this case, the convection could fall down if it's blown in one direction too fast. That's not good for tropical cyclones. All right, so looking at the pattern, this is the 500 millibar chart. In other words, this is about 18 to 20,000 feet in the atmosphere, about midway up, let's say. And the tropical depression is sitting right over here, though it does not show up at this level, meaning that it's not very deep, it's not very well organized. We don't see it showing up at the 500 millibar level. This is valid tomorrow morning around 2 a.m. So the depression should be entering the picture right around here. And up here you can see the outline of this ridge that they're talking about. The air up here is quite a bit more dense and thick than the tropical depression down here, so it has to be kept on a general west-northwest track. And if we go out to 48 hours, you can just begin to see the depression showing up right there into the 500 millibar field, meaning that it's getting a little stronger in the model. And then here is this big ridge of air, this big mountain of air. And these are like contour lines in the atmosphere, and it's not going to allow this to turn up into it. Remember, this air is thicker in the atmosphere, literally. And so this has to ride along the bottom of this bubble of air. It's like a giant water balloon, and the depression is a smaller water balloon. At 72 hours, what we see here, it just, maybe the storm gets a little too close to the islands down here, the ABC Islands. The model not seeing it very well. It may even open up into a tropical wave at this point, but we'll see. It's definitely not showing up very well in the 500 millibar chart, but the ridge up here strengthens that Bermuda high. There's Bermuda right there, very strong, so this will keep it on a generally west track. And then finally at day 4, the depression, if it's still around, maybe it's here, maybe a piece of energy is up here. You can definitely see it trying to show up in the model, but not very well. Then the ridge weakens just a little bit, and there's a definite break between the Bermuda High and the ridge over the Texas area, the central United States, this big heat ridge. There's a break right here. If they were continuous like this, then the depression would just go straight west to west-northwest right into the Yucatan. Finally, at day 5, you can see the depression shows up at this point. It's in here somewhere. Again, not showing up very well in the 500 millibar field, but we also see that the ridge is weakening over the central United States. It also weakens over the western Atlantic just enough that there is definitely a alleyway through here that beyond day 5 it might enter the southern Gulf of Mexico, something we're going to want to keep an eye on. If we move down in the atmosphere to 5,000 feet, or what we call the 850 millibar level, now we can see it showing up with vorticity. This is what the yellow indicates, is spin in the atmosphere. Still not very strong, not a very well-defined signature, but there it is. You can see it being picked up as a fairly shallow system in the 850 millibar chart at 5,000 feet. And then what does that look like at the surface? 1,008 millibar surface low. Scattered convection is denoted by the different colors here. So not a very well organized system by day 5, but still it's there nonetheless. And the interesting part is it'll be sitting over extremely warm water temperatures right here, very high ocean heat content, meaning that the water is warm, but it's also deep. That warm water extends way down into the ocean, the Caribbean Sea, 50, 100, 150 meters or so. That means that there's a lot of heat content available for this system. If the upper level winds allow, it could start to strengthen rather significantly if it can survive to get to the Northwest Caribbean Sea. So there's a look at it from an analytical perspective, breaking down the tropical cyclone discussion. Hopefully that made sense to you. All right, I'll post another update just like this tomorrow, and I'll keep you informed on what's going on with this system, and we'll see what happens. First, the impact to the Lesser Antilles, hopefully not too much by way of wind and rain, just squally conditions as it passes through. No indications that it'll become a hurricane before it moves through the Lesser Antilles, so no worries about that. Again, I am Mark Sutta for HurricaneTrack.com. Thank you very much for purchasing the app. I hope these updates help you to better understand what's going on, and I'll have another one for you tomorrow.